The Jaguar E-Type Series 1 was developed at the end of the 1950s, during a period when Jaguar was transitioning from a respected British manufacturer into a globally recognized engineering brand. Success at Le Mans with the C-Type and D-Type had proven Jaguar's technical credibility, but those achievements were rooted in competition. The challenge now was different, transforming racing knowledge into a road car that could be produced, sold, and driven by the public. Development took place in Coventry, England, where Jaguar's engineers approached the E-Type as a complete system. Body shape, chassis structure, aerodynamics, and mechanical layout were developed in parallel. The car was not styled first and engineered later. Its appearance was a direct result of structural and functional decisions. The E-Type employed a semi-monocoque construction. The central body structure and rear section formed a rigid unitized shell, while the front of the car used a tubular steel subframe. This subframe carried the engine, front suspension, and steering components, isolating mechanical loads from the passenger compartment. This hybrid approach offered several advantages. It reduced overall weight compared to traditional ladder frame designs, increased torsional stiffness, and simplified maintenance by allowing the front assembly to be serviced as a unit. At a time when many sports cars still relied on separate frames, this construction placed the E-Type among the most advanced road cars of its era. The body panels were formed from thin steel and aluminum, shaped into long, uninterrupted curves. Rather than relying on sharp edges or decorative creases, the E-Type's form emphasized surface continuity. Airflow was guided smoothly along the body, reducing drag and contributing to stability at high speed. One of the most distinctive features was the long front bonnet, hinged forward as a single piece. This design was inherited directly from Jaguar's racing cars and provided full access to the engine bay and front suspension. It also defined the E-Type's proportions, visually emphasizing speed and balance. The cabin was positioned rearward, while the tail remained short and clean. These proportions were not chosen for drama, but for functional balance. Weight distribution, aerodynamic efficiency, and structural packaging all influenced the final shape. Body assembly involved significant manual work. Panel fit and alignment reflected the manufacturing standards of the early 1960s, but overall surface coherence was exceptional, particularly across the long bonnet and roofline. The car's form appeared fluid rather than constructed. By the time the chassis and body were completed, the E-Type already embodied Jaguar's philosophy: engineering first, appearance as a consequence. This foundation allowed the mechanical systems to operate without compromise and set the stage for the car's performance capabilities. The Jaguar E-Type Series 1 used a front engine, rear-wheel drive layout refined for balance rather than novelty. This configuration allowed predictable handling and efficient use of available space while maintaining a low center of gravity. Power came from Jaguar's XK inline six-cylinder engine, initially with a displacement of 3.8 liters. This engine was already well proven in both competition and road use, but it was further refined for the E-Type's requirements. The engine featured a cast-iron block paired with an aluminum cylinder head and dual overhead camshafts. This DOHC configuration allowed precise valve control and efficient breathing at higher engine speeds, while maintaining durability suitable for daily driving. Fuel delivery was handled by SU carburetors, a fully mechanical system that relied on careful calibration rather than electronic management. Throttle response was smooth and progressive, encouraging measured input rather than abrupt acceleration. The XK engine was not designed to deliver sudden bursts of power. Instead, it produced strong, linear torque across a wide rev range. This characteristic made the E-Type both fast and controllable, allowing drivers to exploit performance without constant correction. Power was transmitted through a 4-speed manual gearbox to the rear wheels. Gear ratios were chosen to balance acceleration with high-speed cruising, reflecting Jaguar's intention that the E-Type be capable of sustained travel at speed rather than brief sprints. The clutch required deliberate engagement, reinforcing the mechanical connection between driver and drivetrain. This was not a car that insulated the driver from effort. Involvement was an essential part of the experience. One of the E-Type's most advanced technical features was its fully independent rear suspension. At a time when many sports cars still relied on live rear axles, Jaguar's design significantly improved ride quality, traction, and stability. Rear disc brakes were mounted inboard near the differential. This reduced unsprung mass and allowed the suspension to respond more effectively to road irregularities. The solution was derived directly from Jaguar's racing experience and was uncommon on production road cars. Disc brakes were fitted at all four wheels, providing braking performance far beyond contemporary standards. Fade resistance and stopping consistency were major advantages, particularly during extended high-speed driving. Steering was entirely mechanical and unassisted. Feedback from the front wheels was transmitted directly through the steering wheel, demanding attention and skill from the driver while offering precise control. Together, these mechanical systems created a car that was not only fast, but composed and confidence-inspiring. The E-Type rewarded smooth, deliberate driving and demonstrated how racing-derived engineering could be successfully adapted for the road. The interior of the Jaguar E-Type Series 1 reflected a deliberate balance between sporting intent and everyday usability. Jaguar did not design the cabin as a stripped racing environment, but neither did it prioritize luxury in the traditional sense. The goal was functional clarity combined with comfort suitable for extended road use. The seating position was low, with the driver's legs extended forward and the steering wheel positioned close to the chest. This posture enhanced the sensation of speed while lowering the driver's center of gravity, contributing to a greater sense of control. Unlike many contemporary sports cars, the E-Type did not force an upright or cramped driving position. Seats were lightly bolstered and padded, emphasizing comfort over aggressive lateral support. Jaguar expected the E-Type to be driven for hours at a time, not only through corners but across long stretches of open road. Fatigue reduction mattered more than maximum body restraint. The dashboard layout was simple and purposeful. Large analog gauges for speed and engine revolutions dominated the driver's field of view, while auxiliary instruments displayed oil pressure, coolant temperature, fuel level, and electrical status. Every gauge served a clear function, with no unnecessary duplication. Switchgear consisted of toggle switches and rotary controls, offering tactile feedback rather than visual complexity. The layout reflected Jaguar's belief that the driver should operate the car by feel, not by interacting with layers of controls. The steering wheel was directly connected to the unassisted steering system. Road texture, grip levels, and steering load were communicated without filtering, requiring constant attention from the driver. This directness defined the E-Type's character. Externally, the E-Type Series 1 became one of the most recognizable automotive designs of the 20th century. Its shape was not dictated by fashion trends, but by engineering necessity. Aerodynamics, cooling requirements, and structural layout determined its proportions. The long bonnet flowed seamlessly into rounded front fenders, while the roofline tapered gently toward the rear. The tail remained short and clean, avoiding unnecessary ornamentation. The result was a silhouette that appeared fast even at rest. Unlike designs built around sharp creases or exaggerated features, the E-Type relied on subtle curvature and surface continuity. This allowed the design to remain visually relevant long after production ended. Beyond pure design, the E-Type's exterior also reflected manufacturing pragmatism. Large, uninterrupted panels reduced the number of complex joints, simplifying assembly while preserving visual flow. This balance between elegance and practicality was unusual for a car of such performance. The interior and exterior worked together to shape how the car was perceived by its driver. Long sight lines over the bonnet, the low roof line, and the proximity of mechanical components reinforced a constant awareness of speed and motion. The driver was never isolated from the machine. This sense of connection became a defining trait of the E-Type. Rather than overwhelming the driver with aggression, the car communicated through proportion, sound, and feedback, creating an experience that felt intuitive rather than intimidating. When interior and exterior were considered together, the E-Type emerged as a cohesive whole. The cabin supported the driver's task, while the exterior expressed the car's engineering logic in visual form. After final assembly, the Jaguar E-Type Series 1 entered the finishing and inspection stage. This phase was not intended to refine character or enhance performance, but to confirm that the car operated exactly as designed. Body surfaces were prepared largely by hand, particularly across the complex curves of the bonnet, roofline, and rear panels. Achieving smooth transitions required skilled labor, as minor inconsistencies could disrupt both appearance and airflow. Paint was applied evenly, with emphasis on corrosion protection and durability rather than cosmetic perfection. Subtle variations in finish were accepted as part of early 1960s manufacturing practice. Once painting was complete, panel alignment was rechecked. Doors, bonnet, and rear sections were tested for proper fit, sealing, and ease of operation. Any issues affecting functionality were addressed before approval. Mechanical systems were run through controlled test cycles. Engine temperature stability, oil pressure, idle behavior, and drivetrain response were monitored to ensure consistent operation. The gearbox and clutch were evaluated for smooth engagement, while braking systems were checked for balance and effectiveness. Suspension components were inspected to confirm correct geometry and predictable behavior. Inspection standards emphasize reliability over peak output. Jaguar's goal was to deliver a car that behaved consistently under real-world conditions, not one optimized for isolated performance figures. It is important to note that quality control during this period relied heavily on skilled human judgment rather than standardized measurement. Experienced inspectors listened to engine tone, observed vibration behavior, and assessed mechanical smoothness through feel rather than data. This process meant that no two E-types were identical in character. Minor differences in throttle response, steering weight, or drivetrain feel were accepted as natural outcomes of hand-built production, reinforcing the individuality of each car rather than detracting from it. Once inspection was completed, the E-Type was approved for delivery without further modification. At this point, the car transitioned from factory product to a road-ready machine. Once the Jaguar E-Type Series 1 left the factory, it entered public roads as a genuinely new kind of sports car. Unlike limited production exotics that required constant attention, the E-Type was designed to function as a usable vehicle in everyday conditions while still delivering exceptional performance. Jaguar positioned the E-Type as a car that could be driven regularly. Owners used it for commuting, long-distance touring, and high-speed motorway travel. The car did not require special preparation to be driven. It required understanding. The absence of electronic assistance systems placed full responsibility on the driver. Steering effort, throttle modulation, braking input, and gear selection all demanded awareness and mechanical sympathy. The E-Type did not correct mistakes, it revealed them. At low speeds, the car required effort. Steering was heavy, visibility was influenced by the long bonnet, and the clutch demanded precise engagement. These characteristics were not flaws, but direct consequences of performance-oriented design. As speed increased, the E-Type's true nature became apparent. Stability improved, steering lightened, and the car settled into a composed, confident rhythm. The chassis, suspension, and drivetrain worked together to create a sense of balance that few contemporaries could match. On open roads, the E-Type demonstrated its greatest strength, sustained performance. Rather than delivering brief moments of speed, it maintained high velocities with calmness and control. This capability reflected Jaguar's racing experience translated into road use. Over time, drivers learned that the E-Type rewarded restraint as much as enthusiasm. Smooth steering inputs, progressive throttle application, and measured braking allowed the chassis and suspension to work in harmony. The car encouraged rhythm rather than confrontation. This quality distinguished the E-Type from many later high-performance cars. It did not attempt to dominate the driver with excess power or electronic intervention. Instead, it invited cooperation, making the act of driving an ongoing dialogue between human and machine. As years passed, this relationship became central to the E-Type's legacy. Owners remembered not just its speed or appearance, but the way it felt to drive, balanced, communicative, and fundamentally human in character. Ownership marked a shift from manufacturer intent to individual experience. Maintenance, driving style, and usage shaped each E-Type differently. Some were driven daily, others preserved, but all reflected the same engineering foundation. When the E-Type merged into everyday traffic, the production process formally ended. What remained was not merely a vehicle, but a benchmark, one that reshaped the concept of the modern sports car and continues to influence automotive design decades later.